I always wanted to make a difference, not for the sake of making a difference, but I see no point in dedicating my life to a cause that is not different from the ones that we are living already.
Mariana,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm fine. Happy Friday.
Um, I'm very happy to have this conversation today. We are planning since long time, and finally we did it.
Finally. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very
Great.
good. All great. So, who's Mariana Cabugueira?
Okay. Mariana Cabugueira, I think, first of all, a woman, uh, probably a girl. And mm, I would sometimes say a lonely wolf, true believer of the collective, like all wolves, but appreciate sincerely my solitude and my kind of a lonely path, but still within the collective, running with everyone, but at the same time, definitely an appreciator of my own time.
Okay, that's so cool. And if you wanna give yourself special
A
title,
special title.
what would
That's a
it
hard
be?
one. That's super hard. Probably the resilient, I would say. I think with time and time, I've been kind of saying that I'm more resilient, that resilient is probably what describes me the most. So, Mariana the resilient, most likely.
Oh, that's it's actually nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, you know that we publish this in the new year. Then I want to start to tell you Happy New
Happy New
Year,
Year. Yeah, I know.
beginning. And I was reading one article yesterday, which is really fascinated that 88% from people who have wish lists for the new year, they never do it. And despite this, 52 of them, they are really confident of success at that time. Like every year, they are convinced that they will do this and that. So, and by the way, I am from this 80, I was from these people 80%
Of course.
before. So usually I do a wish list and then I'm struggling. I don't put a right plan. Then it's never happened. So what I want to ask you, are usually setting a new year wishes in the beginning of the year?
Um, don't take this wrong. Now that I know that you do wish lists, I'll be a little bit more careful about what I think on wish lists. But I think lists are a little bit like believing in luck, which I don't, or believing in destiny, which I also don't. I think whatever you're going to get from next year will come from your effort. 90% of effort and probably 10% of circumstances. So I would never put on a list what I am going to place the most effort in for the next year, because I trust the Mariana from the future that she will have the capacity to understand on the spot what needs and what requires more effort and less effort. So I barely do any wish lists. I trust the future Mariana to understand on the spot what needs to be done and what needs to be reached. But obviously, there are some things that I hope that happen, right? But I also don't. I don't stick so much to them. I like to be surprised.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But if you don't talk about wishes, let's talk about target. Do you have a target for the upcoming
Targets
year?
for the upcoming year. I want a solidified team of people that I trust a lot.
Okay. Okay. And you take these steps already.
Of course, I'm always taking. I've
Okay,
been
great.
taking those steps for a long time now. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So, Mariana, I was looking to your website before this interview. Your journey is really incredible. So, it's fascinated
Thank
me.
you.
What was the moment that made you realize that you want to mix or have this mixture of ER, VR, technology, AI, architecture?
Well, it's a difficult question because I'm not sure I really went for tech for the sake of tech. Now I'm not
Okay.
even like a maniac for technology, honestly, but you do look at the tools that you have, and you make some kind of a critical choice on what kind of tools do you need to achieve your desired outcome, and it turns out to be technology. But it does not mean that I chase technology to improve architecture, to change architecture. It was more as in I want to reach this type of architecture, or I wish this type of architecture to the world, and these are the tools that are available. And let me make a critical choice on which tools will benefit me the most, or will benefit this outcome the most. And I think I realized this when I was 25 and I was in London. So in Portugal, I'm from Portugal. I'm from Lisbon, and in my country, technology, because the hardware is substantially behind, it's not really spoken about or used much. So you still use a lot of traditional tools, like most of like Mediterranean countries, I would say. Dangerous statement, but it's true.
Mhm.
And for that reason, I had to move countries, come to the UK. And when I came to the UK, I was like exposed to something called Design Research Laboratory, which uses a lot of technology for a specific outcome. I did not care so much about what technology and what kind of tools. I knew I had to learn them, but I wanted the outcome because I believed
Okay.
like with seriousness on the outcome and on and the intellectual side of the outcome. And for that, I had to learn the technology. That I'm not like a tech aficionado at all.
Yeah. And what about AI? I believe, because I'm into this topic since 1 year now, I think is still like science fiction for some people. So until now, people don't believe that AI will take over. And same like internet in
It's weird.
17s or early teens. And also people resist internet until now. And after few years, everything in the internet, like internet take over everything, even the business wise. Same as touch
Right,
screen. You know,
right,
Nokia left go out of business because they don't believe that touch screen is something has value and they should take care of it. Then Apple take the market because they have only a new technology, touch screen. I consider AI as the new touch screen of
right.
phones. So how do you make it practical, not only theoretical?
Well, it's good that you're touching on that metaphor because I also use that metaphor quite often. But I see AI as a tool, a very interesting and important tool, in the same way that you see machines in the Industrial Revolution, a good tool that encouraged a specific outcome. I don't think AI is the outcome. I think AI is an enabler for a specific outcome. What is the outcome? It's what I stand the most is for virtual reality, immersive reality. 100%. And that's a medium in the same way that television is a medium, our screens are mediums, our phone are mediums. Immersive reality is a medium in the same way that our televisions were, as you were saying, exactly the same metaphor. They were controversial, people
Mhm.
believed, people didn't believe. I think it's not about believing. Virtual reality is going to be a normal reality within like 10 years, 20 years, in the same way that our phones is a reality. And AI is going to be a huge enabler for that, and not in a scary way. I mean, obviously, if you want to make it scary, you can make everything scary. But in a way that
Mhm.
it will probably encourage, and I know you're going to touch on creativity, but it's a gigantic enabler of creativity in virtual reality. So I don't see is AI going to happen, not going to happen. But it's a tool. It's a tool that is going to help us in the future. So
And how you take it as a practical
in the studio,
in your design in the industry? Yeah.
well, I'm an architect, right? So I'm not an artist, which is important to be said. And architects still have It's part of our profession to build and to construct, even if it's a virtual build. And that puts AI as probably not the main character in the workflow, but as part of the recipe of the workflow. It doesn't mean, and I'm also a true believer that it shouldn't mean that it is the main ingredient in architecture, and that's my personal opinion and my take in the studio. But it does help and it does encourage a specific types of architectural outcomes that I want in the studio. Is it the main
Hmm.
character and the main ingredient? It's not. I don't even think that it's the same as saying as important as salt in food. It's not that important in my case. It is a nice little encouragement, a little sprinkle that I use in the studio. It will never be the flour and it will never be the salt.
Hmm.
Not that I'm against at all, but it is important to have a stance on it as well. And I think that your identity as a creator, it only comes also comes from where do you stand on the tools that are available and how do you use them.
Hmm. Yeah. Talking about the studio, what inspired you to start MC?
That was a hard one. I think I always wanted to have my own practice, and I always wanted to realize my own visions, right? Because it's good to want to start your own business, and it's good to like not want to work for someone your whole life. I understand that. I think that's not really what motivated me. In a way, I always believed truly in my vision, and since I was very young, and it's hard to make your vision happen when you're working for someone. So I actually had only one option, which was to open my own studio and to follow through and to gather people who share the same vision with me in the studio. So I started last year. It's a baby studio, baby project, for which I have a lot of love. And when I started, it was really with the ambition of following what I really believe in.
So you mentioned that you start only the last
Yeah,
year.
it's a baby. It's
Oh,
a
really?
baby.
Oh,
It's
okay,
tiny.
okay. So yeah, it looks more professional as I see in the website, and as you work since 2 years in MC
Yeah.
Studio, and this is a good
Do you know
impression.
why it's? I think it's because I took a slightly different path than usual in our industries, and I started building the brand very early, the
Yeah,
Mariana brand, and then I took the step of opening the business. So it was kind of like the opposite of the traditional path. Usually, you build the company and then you start building the brand. I built the brand and then started the company. That's why it feels
that's
older.
really smart. It's really smart, and it leads me to another question now. Usually, architecture business owners, they aware or they take care always with a circle of hunting projects, the operation of these projects, then the submission and deliverables, then try to hunt another projects, and then they go all the time to this cycle.
Right.
And then there's another one, which is branding, identity, marketing, sales, finance. And usually they don't give attention to this. So I give it 20%. When I say they don't give attention, I mean they do it by the traditional way, not the right way as a startup or as a right business. So you start actually, as you tell me now, with the bigger circle, which is
Right.
the branding. So do you believe that branding is very important in architecture world?
I believe there's not one recipe to make it. Okay, I think there
Okay.
are many different ways. Some people can start with branding. Some people can start with the collective. I think we can still start from a collective of friends, and those collective of friends build something that then becomes something. Personally, I was more interested in starting my own brand and then jumping into scaling that up to company. And I'm particularly curious to see how this will develop in a world in which we are so exposed to content creators a lot more than before, right? And I do think that the fact that we have seen so many content creators building their own brand from their own persona and identity will most likely make us transpose this into the architectural world. How are we not necessarily content creators, but how are we the main characters of what we are doing? And that's something that is extremely valuable from our generation, and it's new. And it's new
Hmm.
because our parents were not thinking, how are we our main characters?
Sure.
How usually they would think, how will I grow in a specific company? But now it changed because we do see ourselves with the competencies of becoming the main characters of what we do.
Yeah, I agree. And do you had in the beginning a certain milestones?
Milestones when I started, I always wanted to, this is going to sound like a cliche, but it is extremely real. I always wanted to make a difference, not for the sake of making a difference, but I see no point in dedicating my life to a cause that is not different from the ones that we are living already. And I don't even see a point in life for being redundant. And that was a milestone since the beginning. I'm very loyal to that. I think almost whatever it takes for what I'm doing to be relevant and not to be, sense brought to the beach. I will most likely stand for that until ending.
And since 1 year, Mariana, do you tell me what's the coolest project you have worked on so far?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one because I'm doing a very big one right now, and it's very hard to detach myself from that one. So probably in a year I'll answer something different. But right now we are building an airport for Saudi, a gigantic one, and I'm directing the project. But what is giving me the most pleasure is directing the team, and the team is phenomenal, like phenomenal. And props to the team and props to myself to setting up the team because they are good. Like there is no one who is starting and warming up. No, everyone is talented, strong, and more than that, I usually ask people when they're doing their projects, is this the best that you have done so far? And I asked them individually, like, do you feel that this project is the best you've done so far? And you can tell that they answer with pride that that's the best. They have never produced anything as good. Now imagine a group of 9 people, and all of them are doing the best project they've ever done, and this comes together in one project. It's I, every day I look at the screens on the meeting. I'm like, oh my god. Sometimes I really say like, oof, my god, what is this? Because everyone's screen sharing is like absolutely like breathtaking. So right now, the Saudi project, it might be the project that I'm most proud of, the one that I like the most as well. With all due respect to my other project babies, but this one is probably the one that I'm more, like. It has my heart.
Okay. Um, I love your way now talking about your team because the all the architecture offices which is I visited or I coaching them or I advise them, they have always a big challenge to find a good team. And even they found 3 5 years you visit again, you find completely different people. So do you have a criteria of hiring or do you have a certain culture map inside or you just build it now because you are it's a young office? Are you building certain culture map make this team is the best or your criteria is successful?
Kamel, honestly, the team is 80% of the success of the project. And I would never compromise the quality of the project for a bad team. So I put a lot of thought on the team and a lot of thought on the people that joined the studio. And it is more important than any business owner could predict before you start opening a business is who are you selecting for your studio. It is the game changer. It's the breaking point. It's the make it or break it of your projects is your team. I haven't yet put out a public publishing a hiring positions for publicly for the studio, and it will take me probably a little bit because I will not select people that I haven't taught personally because I'm also a teacher,
Mm.
and I know people, I know their strengths, and I also pass my methodologies. And I am not ready yet to work with people that I don't trust and I don't know. And I have been
Mhm.
teaching for 7 years or 8 years. I have a lot of people to pick within those 8 years. And right now, the small circle that I have around me, they are of people who have been my students for more than months, for years. They have been my students. So I know them by heart. I know their strength. I know their weaknesses. I know their skills. And they have learned my methodology of designing. Yes, I'm super
Mhm.
open to surprises. I'm super open to like new people. But for now, the stronger positions in my studio are from people that I have personally taught. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mariana, I see now your potential as a person and designer and teacher and architect.
A bit of everything.
So so my next question for you: who is stopping you to become the next Zahadid?
That's a super controversial question. You have some people, if they are listening, there you have some people squirming themselves in their chair, like, "Oh my god, he did not ask this." Some people be angry with this.
Why I'm asking you, and I want to name Zahadid because my godfathers, let's say it this way, Zahadid and Frangeri. So when I say Zahadid, I mean the big star of architecture.
Well, what stops me? I'm gonna make your listeners even more angry. Nothing stops me from that.
It's surprise question. It's surprise answer. To be honest.
Yeah. If they were squirming themselves when you asked, now they are squirming even harder. Nothing stops me from that. I think it's a matter of time and making wise decisions and wanting that as well, first of all. So I'm a true fan of Zach. I think she belonged to a specific time, and on her weaknesses and on her strengths, they are part of a specific time in our society. That maybe it would be very different if they were put in place now. So she belonged to that time, and now I belong to this time. And many times I do think of her actually, and I would, when I'm being challenged, especially business wise, I would very often think, what would she do? And it does not mean that she would probably do the best for the current times, right? Because she belonged to a different time. I do try to think what would her brain adapt to current times would do, and I take a lot of inspiration on that. And it's not like a romantic, nostalgic inspiration. It really is knowing that she had to make some very tough calls that are controversial and they are raw and they are not really romantic and they're not even design driven. They are business driven, and if I had to ask her something, it would most likely be on business development. 100%. But for Mariana Pazzi, it would be my own common sense and my own decision. So I believe nothing would stop me from
Okay,
that.
that's actually a good answer, and that's why I give you bonus.
Thank you. We have a gigantic crowd, everyone,
You know.
and canals.
Okay. Okay. So let's ask you another question. If someone listening to you now, um, what usually stand out in design today? What's this one thing they absolutely need to focus on?
In current times,
Yes.
well, listen, in the age of I always say this actually. In the age of AI, don't be an NPC. And what this means is find your authenticity. Find what is unique about you. Use AI, use whatever tool you want. Make sure that there is something preserved that is untouched by tools and that is untouched by automation. And that and this is serious because it's the difference between building a Bershka, a Shein, a Zara brand, or building a McQueen, a Chanel, and haute couture. Okay, this was the lessons that we got from Industrial Revolution, from that type of automation, industrial automation. There's another digital automation coming. Do you want to build a Shein? Build a Shein. Build a Temu. Build a Bershka. You make money from that. If you want to stay true to your design, make sure that you are on couture, that you are on craftsmanship, that you are on authenticity. And that's the kind of decision you need to make
Mhm.
these days if you are joining any design industry.
Great. Mariana, you have been featured in One World magazine. I see the KSA MicroLiving project images there. So, what inspired you? Because I know now you told me also it's the one from your
Yeah.
favorite projects. So, what inspired this project? How does this align to the Saudi Arabia vision, the huge booming which is happening now, and the new vision of 2030 of Saudi
Well,
Arabia?
the airport was proposed as a very controversial but also very pioneering perspective of living in airports, and it comes from its idea of bringing urbanism into our airport practice and airport design. And it's something that you would see also Norman Foster. They have a project for the same site also on urbanism topic brought into an airport, and it's controversial because it makes the airport a metropolitan place for you to experience in between, because the airports are traditional in between moments, in between taking off, going to another country, and leaving another country. So it is this space in between that in which we usually take it as a corridor, as a moment of transition. But the proposal is to extend it for further than just a moment of transition, and to actually live it in the same way that you would live downtown on your city. Obviously, from recreational perspectives or business perspectives, it brings a lot of profit. But apart from that, it is also to easy your what is usually a very stressful moment, which is leaving a country and taking off for another one. We give it like 3 hours, 4 hours, and then we are like, stressing about those 4 hours. When are we leaving and when are we not? But when the airport gives you the same facilities as downtown, you'll probably stay there for one day and then pick on take your plane and then take off on the day after. So that is the proposal. That was what was proposed to us as a brief and as a concept, which was very challenging. A lot of kilometers, square kilometers as well. So it is gigantic. And what I personally was most intrigued about the project was not just, obviously the brief is interesting and the urbanistic take on airports is interesting, but I personally decided to test this AI craftsmanship workflow with this project specifically. It was the first one that I decided, as director of the studio, how can we make this feedback loop dynamic between our craftsmanship, digital craftsmanship, and 3D modeling, and AI image generation, and how can this be a dynamic loop between both? And that started with the airport
Mhm.
specifically. AI was on pre-concept. It was fed for our 3D and for planning, and then it was a long span of time without AI, because planning an airport, it has a lot of rule sets. and we also had to break
Hmm.
some rule sets. And then we took that to AI for post production, again from the 3D. So it kind of gave us this very satisfying full circle moment of starting pre-concept AI, taking it as like a whole meal, like a whole thing, and then post-producting it back to AI as well. And that was very satisfying.
And do you usually use also AI in the next phases of space finding, space optimization, BIM related AI tasks,
Not
or
yet,
not yet?
but I really want to. That's probably the AI that I'm most curious about right now.
Okay, I was attending a workshop for Autodesk 2 weeks ago. How 2024, 26, they are planning to have everything optimized based on AI, like all facades, or planning, or urban planning. So
Oof,
yeah, we can talk about it
that would be so
later
good.
in this. Okay, talking about the airport, I also have a little chat time to time with from time to time with Katyan, and I believe he also working with you, participating in the
Mhm.
airport project. Such interesting guy. Can you tell me more about Kaitan's role in the AI post
Of
production?
course. So
Uh,
Kaiten has been working with me for the past year on a different chapter, actually, like a research chapter, which is virtual reality exposure therapy. And we have been developing kind of a research project on the side. But some of the, probably one of the strongest strengths of Kaiten was creating AI image generation that has, and this is a bit controversial, soul. It has depth. Not all AI image generation has depth, and it's okay. Some of them are probably more commercial, and some of them are slightly more plastic, and it's fair. Everyone has their own take on AI. Personally, I do prefer AI with depth and with emotions, and I knew even before I knew Kaiten, and that he had a strong skill on that. And for this project, it made sense to bring that kind of post production with soul, with depth, with mist, with atmosphere. And probably for another project, I'll pick something more commercial or not. But right now, his style has been probably the style that makes more sense for the studio so far. And he is one of your
I agree,
creators, yeah.
100%. That's yeah. I love his work. See, I have another question for you, Mariana. What do you feel is still missing in the journey right now? Your journey right now, yeah, and how you are working to close
Yeah.
it, to close this gap.
Well, Kamal, I want my team here. Like, I want them here, like here in space. I don't believe in architecture that is done without physical synergy. It hasn't been, not just from the business side that is not so profitable, as in people do work way better when they are together, but people learn with each other much faster. We are meant to be in society, inserted in society. We are meant to be with other people, not just socializing, but learning how to do better or do different and to grow from those connections. So if there's something that on my journey that a wish list for next year, I want my team here around me. I want them here.
Okay, and your team is online. They are working online all the time, like not
No,
part
no,
from.
I have everything. I have online, I have part time, I have fixed, I have full time. I have a bit of everything. If there's one format that I want the most, is full time here. Is it intense? Yes. Am I an intense person? Yes. Are your projects intense? Yes. Take it or leave it. That's kind of, that's what you signed up for.
Okay. So, Mariana, when you told me you traveled from Portugal to London uh, 8 years ago, or when
10
it was
years,
that?
yeah.
10 years ago. When you look back to this time, is there anything you would have done different than now in your career or in your business journey.
That's a hard question. Are you asking this because you also moved so many times?
Yes.
Is your answer, and do you have, is your answer I would change or no? Out of curiosity.
Out of curiosity, let's say 80% yes.
80% yes.
Yeah.
You would change.
Be- because 10 years is a long period where we as a person, like our personality, it's completely different from 10 years to
Yeah.
another. We grow up, we meet people when we will have experience different than 10
Mhm.
years ago. Sometimes the decision we taken 10 years ago based on a criteria, which is we completely different, we understand it's completely
Right.
different after some time. That's why I said 80% is exactly what's happening for me every 10 years. Like always shift something. I move
Right.
something like completely in other direction.
It's tough because your answer also stems from the fact that you made a lot of risks. You took a lot of risks because you moved a lot more than I did. And that's why you can probably pinpoint what you did well and what you could have done wrong. But I cannot, I would almost say, I wish I've had the courage to move somewhere else. But I cannot say that I regret a decision that I have not made because I don't know what the outcome of that decision would have been. So it would be a very risky answer to say that I regret not doing something because in reality I don't know what the outcome would have been, and probably I would regret making that risk.
Mhm.
So from the decisions that I have made, what I regret, I think it's probably I would have charged myself a little bit more with self confidence, like charged it without limitations.
Okay.
Like really charged. Like does not matter how many people are uncomfortable by
Mm.
that. It does not matter. And I've lost a
Yeah.
lot of people also from that because they are uncomfortable if you are too comfortable or if you are too confident. I would have been way more if I could now charge my past self like I without limitations.
And Mariana, what is your biggest dream?
That's so hard.
But just
Come on.
hit,
It's
hit,
so good.
hit me with something
That's
strong,
so
so I
hard.
can give you another bonus.
That biggest dream. That's so hard. Okay. I'm gonna do the filtered one. But it's not so filtered. I I'm not participating, okay, it's going to be maybe a bit too strong. I am aware that I'm not participating in society from the educational point of view, as in traditional education, as in building a family, living kids, living a legacy, and so on. I'm aware of that. This is going to be a problem in the Western society, and I'm very happy for the people who are doing it. And that puts me the pressure on, I would say, responsibility to make a difference in the way that I'm choosing to participate in this society, which is not the conventional one. So my biggest dream is to make sure that when I leave, I did make a difference on what I put my energy in. That's probably my dream. I won another call. Yay!
Okay, Marianne. So let's go away to be emotional and then back to
No, it's okay.
architecture. What do you see the future, or how do you see the future of architecture, especially now in this AI and digital fabrication
It's like
world?
early, just for everyone to know, like our listeners, it's early in the morning, and I'm getting like the hardest questions ever. Future of architecture. You mentioned digital fabrication and AI. Is that what you mentioned?
Yes,
What's
yes.
the future? I think like I said, these are great tools. Is this the future of architecture? I'm not sure. I'm not. do you want a realistic take on the future of architecture, or do you want what the future of architecture should be? Because realistic take, I think it's going to be mass production, mass construction, probably taking over Mother Nature a lot more than the other way around. And I think
Mhm.
another tool of automation is just going to feed the hunger for speed and quantity over quality. And I think that's a realistic take. And I don't even think this is a negative take. I think this is a realistic take. Automation will just further accelerate construction and feed the hunger of power and feed the hunger of building for the sake of capitalism. So that's the realistic take. What it should be, I hope we could leave. I hope we could leave our land alone a bit, give it a bit of peace. You know, I think we should definitely start controlling how many people are on the surface of Earth, and and that's one of the reasons why I decided to invest myself so much on building digitally, because our experiences are also migrating to a digital environment. If our experiences are already migrating to digital, can we build digitally and leave the Earth alone? Give it some peace, you know. And that's one of the reasons why I'm part of the digital side of architecture.
Yeah, this is what I want just to comment because you're a big fan of
Mhm.
metaverse. I see your work already there, and some people they don't know what is metaverse because not all what our audience are architects. So could you tell me more how people can build in metaverse?
Well, I think instead of using the word metaverse, because that was kind of an advertisement and also part of the branding for Meta, I think we can just treat it as virtual reality, right? In the same way that we are doing a virtual 2D reality, we are living this one, the 2D one, the 2D screens, which are not very natural to us, right? And there was never a point in the history of humans in which we were living three-dimensional relationships, which are social relationships, political relationships. There was never a moment in time in which we were doing that through a flat screen and a 2D screen. And that will evolve very rapidly into three-dimensionals and four-dimensionals kind of relationships. And that can be called virtual reality, it can be called immersive reality, it can be whatever we want to call it. But it's not much more advanced than just making our virtual relationships 3D as they should. So that's
Hmm.
Meta called it metaverse, obviously, and we will call it something else. But it would just be it is a world that we are living in already quite substantially. I mean, I do, fortunately and unfortunately, but that would be just surrounding us in the same way that architecture surrounds us, but virtually. And what I'm particularly more interested is to actually merge them. How much more beautiful would our physical spaces be if they had an inlay of the digital information around us with almost boundless creativity in it, right? And that's what I hope to be part of, like sincerely.
Hmm. And what's the best piece of advice you have ever received, Mariana,
Well,
that shaped your path in both business and architecture as well?
well, the best advice that I have received for architecture and for personal decisions, I think you would have to be, you will never discover new lands if you don't have the courage to lose sight of the shore. And that has been something that I have been struggling to accept, because we all struggle when we are faced with the need of change. When you're facing the need of change, you're going to lose something, and usually it's losing sight. And losing sight is scary for any living being, actually. And but you will never reach any different outcome, and you will never discover anything that you have not seen before if you don't lose that sight. And that is tough. That is like physically tough.
That's true. Mariana, I will end this podcast with a nice game. Do you
This
want to do
is
it? So I have these cards, and it's personal, professional, business questions.
Wow.
So I will pick one. If you find it's personal, then ask me to pick another one. So feel free, don't be shy. And then let's see what's saying. Okay. What act of self-care should become a non-negotiable in your life?
Self care
Yeah,
as a hard one. A part of self care.
that nobody can negotiate with you to take it from your life.
I, I'd have to say the time that I spend alone to regroup my thoughts. I would never compromise that time. Not for a client, not for money, not for a romantic partner, not for family, not for anyone. I would compromise the time that I need to be alone, walk, or whatever activity that helps me that to regroup my thoughts, to be in sync with what am I thinking, what are my next steps on this, was I okay on those steps, or not even being so tied to the past. But my time alone is non-negotiable. What is yours, by the way? What is yours? Tell me yours.
So the thing which is non-negotiable for me is stop achieving.
Okay, that's
So if this is make me, I might die if I even every day if I feel that I don't achieve anything, I become really in a bad mood. It shouldn't be only business, but business or personal
right.
or emotional or whatever, that I should achieve everything every day. This makes me alive.
That's a lot of pressure
So
for yourself as well, huh?
of course, but I love it. You know, I love to be in pressure all the time. I don't like to feel relaxed. So, and this make me a better human
I
day
know
after
what you
day.
mean.
I think so.
I know what you mean. I passed through that as well. I understand you. We're some from the same pack. Cool.
Thanks so much, Mariana, for today. I was super happy from this podcast. We might have part two, maybe next year,
Like a follow
sometime.
up.
Yeah, and nice to
Thank
see
you
you
so much,
here.
and thank you for the publish. And everyone, please have a look at the magazine. It's outstanding, and it is also making a difference in the AI world. Like I'm pretty convinced. And congratulations to the team. I know like we had this like off record before starting the recording, but the reality is you are making a difference in the industry, and it caught my eye like since you started, right, which is also very commendable. It's a 6 months project that you have here, the WW magazine, and in reality it caught my eye since the, I don't know, like since the very beginning, and that's a skill that you have. And it also stems from the fact
Thank,
that you had other companies, you started and you made it like made the difference immediately, and that is impressive. It's like seriously impressive. So congratulations for
thanks
that
so
and for
much,
your
Mariana.
team as well.
Thank you. Congratulations also for
Thank you
MC
so
second.
much.
Okay. Ciao,
Bye.
Mariana.